So you have two different groups here. And at best, you've got the establishment. They kind of want to pick around the edges. They're not really up for a big fight. I think they themselves, a lot of them, I'm speaking broadly, I'll get specific in a minute. They're not, they kind of like the bureaucracy. They don't want to have big fights. They want to work things out. They want to negotiate. They want to compromise. Not that those things are necessarily always bad. They're not. They're not leftists, but they're bureaucrats, and bureaucrats tend to want to protect the bureaucracy. They argue they want to fight against health care. They campaigned against Obamacare, said they would do everything in their power to repeal Obamacare. But I would argue the more establishment types don't really have the stomach to fight for this. I think if they have their way, they'll get little victories here or there, negotiate whatever crumbs Obama and the Democrats are willing to feed them. And in the end, America is going to be in a more of a state of managed decline. That would be the best result, because I think there's a point where compromise hurts in the long run. There's a time to stand up. There's a time to compromise. You have to have the wisdom to distinguish between them. For example, more establishment types told us Bob Dole was a good candidate. I like Bob Dole, but Bob Dole was an establishment, bureaucratic, moderate Republican. He would tell you he's a conservative. I'd say he's more moderate. John McCain, same thing. And the argument has always been that the more moderate candidate has the greater appeal in presidential elections, and you always hear that from the establishment wing every election. Then they ask the more conservative members, well, you guys lost in the primary, so we need you to be good team players, and you need to support the nominee, even though you didn't support them, because the Democrat is far worse. Now, stick with me here. They always demand that conservatives that have to suck it up when they lose. And for the most part, conservatives have. Last few Republican, quote, moderate candidates that have run and have lost, the argument has been the more conservative base of the Republican Party has to suck it up. Now, I'll give you an insider example. When John McCain was running for president, I got a call. I'm not going to say who because it was a confidential call. I got a call from somebody who was about the point where they're ready to pick a vice president, and somebody calls me and says, Hannity, what do you think about Joe Lieberman for vice president? True story. My answer was, and by the way, personally, I like Joe Lieberman. Joe Lieberman was really, really good on national security issues, but he caucuses. He's a liberal Democrat in every other way. And we just have disagreements, but I do think he has a level of decency that most Democrats do not. He's not out there calling people names, attacking Tea Party members. He had a level of civility. He had more honor as a senator, and I can understand people that just have honest disagreements. I think he's more in the honest disagreement category than, say, Harry Reid and the rest of these guys today, the ones that are out there attacking Ted Cruz. So I said, well, if McCain picks Joe Lieberman, who was Al Gore's vice presidential selection, you're going to lose me. No way. I'm not supporting the ticket. And I said, I doubt many conservatives will either. I can't speak for conservatives. I can only speak for myself. Anyway, in the end, it became Governor Palin. But I think it does describe a mindset that existed. So little skirmishes have come up before, and part of the establishment, they want to argue that we need a more electable moderate. Now, as a conservative myself, and this is the other side of the coalition of the Republican Party, the conservative wing, I think most conservatives, and I don't speak for all of them, are looking at the economy right now, and 1 in 5 American children in poverty, 1 in 6 Americans in poverty, a doubling of the number of people on food stamps. You look at our foreign policy, which is one of weakness and capitulation and negotiating with the mullahs in Iran, and we're now literally being pushed out of the world stage and leading from behind, and then on top of it, we got Obamacare. And I, as a conservative, think this is not a time for half measures, because when we have $90 trillion in unfunded liabilities and we have $17 trillion in debt, and then we're adding a new entitlement Obamacare to the mix, I don't think this is a time for half measures. I think we've got to literally, this is the moment where conservative solutions need to prevail. And if I was the conservative leading the Republican Party, I'd be pushing and driving home the need for tapping into America's energy resources. If I was a leader in the Republican Party and a conservative, I would be driving home the importance of balanced budgets and a balanced budget amendment, because we can't live beyond our means anymore. If I was a leader, my solutions would be very different on health care, and I'd make sure that every American could regurgitate what a health care savings account would be for them. These are all things that we've talked about. I'd offer positive solutions, alternatives. A lot of people don't know these things because I would argue Republicans don't articulate this. And then I see, who are these more conservative members in the House and Senate? Well, Ted Cruz has become the poster child for conservatism right now, and Rand Paul is right there with him, and Mike Lee is right there with him, and on this battle over the budget, Marco, those four have been leading the way, and in the House you got a lot of conservatives in the House, a lot of them. Louis Gohmert, Michelle Bachmann, Steve King. You've got Tea Party activists out this weekend, led by Cruz and Lee, and Sarah Palin was out there, and they're literally lifting barricades, saying, "No, you're not going to use the government shutdown and take advantage of people that have served this country." You got Tea Party activists all over the place in this country saying, "Stand on your principles." Here's the bottom line: every single Republican, I can't think of one that didn't, ran to repeal health care. They kept. Now, we keep hearing there are strategic differences with Ted Cruz and Rand and Marco and Lee. House conservatives, they're keeping their promise right now. Those senators I mentioned, they're keeping their promise. The problem here is the more establishment wing of the Republican Party, they didn't stick together with these guys. And instead, the establishment has been out there trashing principled conservatives for keeping their principles and for keeping their commitment and their promises to their constituents. You got the establishments blaming the Tea Party, and, name names, Peter King, you're one of them. Peter King, didn't you say you'd do everything you could to repeal Obamacare? And same with John McCain, and same with Corker, Senator Corker. It's like they have now declared war on principled conservatives like Ted Cruz doing the bidding of the Democrats and the leftist media, and now you've got the establishment Republicans trashing the conservative base of their own party, and in the process propping up and empowering the president and Harry Reid to be in a position that they can say, "No, we're not even going to negotiate with you guys. We'll let you fight it out." Now, I don't blame the media. I don't blame Harry Reid. I don't blame Obama. If every Republican would have stood by their promise like Ted Cruz, we wouldn't be in this position today. If they held together, we wouldn't have a problem today. What is different here is, every time the establishment wins, they want the Tea Party conservative base to go along with them. Now when the Tea Party stands up and fights for what they promised their voters, somehow they're evil. Somehow what they did is wrong. When yet all I see is them standing on their principles. Well, this is about different strategies. I don't think this country is going to survive with half measures. Either you believe that we need radical, positive, oriented solutions for this country and you're willing to fight for them, or you're not. Is it a third party we need? I've often argued no. I'm not so sure anymore. Maybe time for a new conservative party in America. I'm sick of these guys.